is probably the most legendary acoustic guitar in the world. Why is that, do you think? Is it because they've been around for so long, or is it because they make the best guitars, or why?
Well, they are the oldest established guitar company still in existence. They're family owned, and that lineage is complete since they actually started.
Yeah.
That allied with the fact that they produce incredibly good guitars, a real broad spectrum of guitars, you know.
You think it's the D28 that made it all?
Well, the D28 is the iconic acoustic guitar. If you think of an acoustic guitar, you think of the D28.
Yeah.
You know, a bit like Fender Strat and electric guitars. You know, apologies to Gibson and Rickenbacker, etc. But, you know, you think acoustic guitars, you think of D28. Because it's a great guitar. You know, number one. And number two, everyone that's used one for that reason, you know.
Yeah. Why did it come in? Why did they design the D28? What was the purpose of it?
Right, it's quite a long story, but I'll try and keep it fairly brief. It was actually designed to be the loudest guitar of its time. It was the biggest physical guitar. It was designed for a banjo player, actually, eventually down a long way down the line. But really, you've got to remember, no amplification, things like that. It really had to be loud on its own merits. They designed it to be big because internal literage gives you the actual volume and the bass resonance. They used rosewood for the back to give it the bottom end, spruce for the top to give it the sparkle. You know, it really was. It was a volume buster. That was why they invented it.
And isn't it strange that players like Michael Hedges, who is a fingerstyle player, and Martin obviously has fingerstyle guitars, but he played a D28 as well.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that categories are only there to try and, you know, match a guitar to a player's style. It doesn't mean it's an absolute. You know, Michael Hedges was a very innovative player. He used a lot of different tunings, and he wanted power. D28 is a power guitar, you know, and that's what you get from it. So, I mean, yes, there's categories you could say, yes, this is fingerstyle, this is, you know, sort of plectrum guitar, etc. It's only a guideline. There are no hard and fast rules, you know.
Which one is your favourite out of the Martin range?
Well, I personally own a Trebolo 16, small body mahogany. I like it because it's got very open and airy sound. You know, I'd take them all, honestly. It's just that it's like asking me which one of my kids I like the most, you know. They all have their own place, you know.
So, you know, for Fender and Gibson, they're doing a lot of Relic series, and they're doing a lot of artist series, and Martin does a few artist series as well. Do you think we'll ever see a Relic series from Martin?
I don't really think so. I think the thing is that the Relics for Gibson, Fender, etc. are a very visual thing.
Yeah.
You know, whereas with acoustics, really it's not. You don't have that kind of same visual appeal. A worn acoustic just looks like a worn acoustic. You know, an aged Fender can look quite, you know, distinctive and very sort of, I don't know.
Different markets, so it doesn't
I think so. I think at the end of the day, Martin are about tone.
Yeah.
You know, they're about the tone of the instrument rather than the look. I mean, they do vintage appointments, they're doing vintage guitars, so they're going back to the style and the build of the older guitars, which does make a difference.
But they don't file them down?
I don't think that you end up seeing them wearing the finishes or anything like that. Not really, no.
Why is it that when you open a case of a new Martin, you open the case and you smell the wood? Why does that not happen on other guitars? Is there anything they do to it?
I don't think they actually do anything to basically promote that. I think it's just a natural occurrence because they use natural nitrocellulose lacquer, which has a distinctive sort of smell, and it's used in very, very thin coats. What happens with nitrocellulose is it never stops actually giving off that sound. The longer you keep it, the thinner the finish gets on the guitar, until ultimately at some point I suppose it must vanish, but it's like from here to infinity, you know. And they're using high quality woods, properly cured, cut.
How many guitars do they make in a year? Must be thousands and thousands.
They do, but it's nothing compared to, say, some of the other major manufacturers, because you only have a limited facility in Nazareth where they build them, and they won't farm it out to any other company, and they won't basically cut corners. So the actual production that Martin can make is actually technically limited. but that's what they want to do. They'd rather produce, 1,000 great guitars than cut corners and produce 2,000 that were a bit iffy.
Yeah. And how do the artist series go? They sell a lot? Like the Eric Clapton model, because they're very expensive.
Well, yeah, I mean the Clapton model's a funny one because it's not just one guitar.
Oh, really?
It's actually, there have been over the period about, now I might be wrong on this, but about 5. I mean, we've got the white one there. They've done a black one. The original one was very, very limited. They only did 450.
Okay, and then they kind of got
Ocean 451 Boulevard 451.
My favourite album.
Those were all basically Brazilian rosewood back inside guitars. They were incredible. A lot of people missed the whole point of that guitar. It was something really special. And they looked at the price and said, well, it's £6,000.
Yeah.
Actually, £6,000 for a Brazilian rosewood guitar. It's a lot of money, but it's not silly.
Give it a few years and probably going to climb.
You can't get Brazilian rosewood apart from fallen trees. It's very expensive. It does produce the best tone.
Yeah.
Why do people pay £500,000 for a cat?
Yeah.
It still takes you from A to B.
Yeah.
Whereas with something like that, you've got something that is going to be an appreciating asset. Now, the other thing that people forget about Martin guitars is that on average, you get about 25, 40 years lifespan out of them.
Yeah.
So you're not buying something which is just play it for a few years and then, it's finished. It is a real guitar for life and you can pass it on. In fact, if I could get my hands on, a container load of pre-war Martins, I could retire now.